Good morning, everybody. Thank you to the 15,300 people that came forward for testing in the last 24 hours to 8 p.m. We do want to see those testing rates go higher and stay high to give us confidence about the next decisions we can take moving forward. Pleasingly, there were only 5 cases of community transmission in the 24 hours to 8 p.m, all of them on the northern beaches and all of them obviously associated in one way or another with the Avalon cluster, and Dr. Chant will provide some further detail around that. And whilst we're seeing the trends go the way we hope they do, there are still too many concerning aspects of those cases, and also of not really being able to identify what we call the intermediaries, those unlinked cases, for us to really ease restrictions in the way that we know the Northern Beaches community wanted us to do so. So firstly, I'll start to talk about New Year's Eve arrangements. As you know, previously we'd allocated spots along the foreshore for frontline workers from across the state to be able to come and enjoy the fireworks. Unfortunately, we're going to have to cancel that. We think it's too much of a health risk having people from the regions and from Sydney and from broader regional areas congregate all in the CBD, and the advice to date has to all of us been try to avoid the CBD. And so on New Year's Eve, we're going to say to those frontline workers we'd previously invited, we'll find another opportunity during the year to recognise what you've done. So on New Year's Eve, we don't want any crowds on the foreshores around Sydney whatsoever. However, if you have a booking for a restaurant or another hospitality venue, so long as the 4 square metre rule is in place and those venues have COVID-safe plans and you have a permit from Service New South Wales, you will be allowed into those venues in the CBD. If you're someone who lives in the CBD and has some people over to your home, that is allowed, but you can't have more than 10 people in your home. So those restrictions that apply for broader Sydney apply to the CBD, obviously, on New Year's Eve as well. So unless you have a permit to go to someone's home with not more than 10 people, or you have a permit from Service New South Wales to attend a hospitality venue, nobody should be in the CBD at all. And that is our strong message. All of us, no matter where we are in New South Wales or Australia and the world for that matter, can enjoy the 7-minute display from home. And that is the safest way this year to enjoy the fireworks, or I should say from television, because you might be at someone else's home, and I'll explain what those restrictions are for areas outside the CBD. So to all the frontline workers who would previously allowed those passes to thousands of you, 4,000 or 5,000 of you on the foreshore, unfortunately we'll have to pick a different time, different way to thank you, but I do want to take this opportunity to say you're in the top of our minds and thoughts. We still have fireys from last year we haven't been able to thank properly, and obviously all our frontline health workers, teachers and police and other frontline workers we were going to recognise. We will do so in a different way during 2021. In relation to regional New South Wales, restrictions beyond the 30th of December remain unchanged. Remember yesterday and the day before, Dr. Chant and I had spoken about what things look like until the 30th of December. So for regional New South Wales, nothing changes, arrangements are the same. For Greater Sydney, nothing changes, the arrangements are the same. So on New Year's Eve, you can't have more than 10 people in your home, that includes children. So you can have up to 10 people in your home if you're from Greater Sydney, but no more than that. However, we are reducing outdoor gatherings to 50 rather than 100 across the board. When I say across the board, I mean Greater Sydney. So at this point in time, you could have an outdoor gathering of 100. We're reducing that to 50. So it means if you want to have an outdoor barbecue or an outdoor picnic, you can do so up to 50 people. But remember, that means you have to be socially distanced. And what police and our health authorities don't want to see is those groups of 50 suddenly converging and becoming hundreds. So we're okay with you, so long as you're socially distancing, having an outdoor gathering of 50 in Greater Sydney. But make sure that those groups of 50 don't converge, and within those groups of 50 that you have good social distancing, because what we don't want to see is too much mingling within households that aren't socially distanced, and that's the message for Greater Sydney moving forward in terms of the restrictions. For the Northern Beaches community, firstly, can we thank you all for your patience, and of course Minister Hazzard, who happens to be a member of the Northern Beaches community, will provide some further reflection and comment. But if you are in the northern part of the Northern Beaches and the northern zone of the Northern Beaches around the Avalon cluster, Unfortunately, the stay-at-home provisions will be staying in place until the 9th of January. And that's because of the number of active cases we have, the number of people we have in isolation and the concentration of cases, and also the fact that we still haven't found the real root cause of how the virus actually got to the Avalon RSL. So for those reasons, unfortunately, the stay-at-home provisions will be in place for the northern zone of the northern beaches. However, on New Year's Eve, you will have some relief. You'll be able to have up to 5 people into your home, including children. But again, they have to be from the northern zone. They have to be from north of the Narrabeen Bridge and west and east of the Baha Temple. So please know you can have up to 5 people in your home during New Year's Eve, but they have to be from that zone. And outside of that, we're still going to allow you to have 5 people at public gatherings, outdoor gatherings, during the entire time until the 9th of January. So stay-at-home provisions that you're all used to now are in place, with the exception of New Year's Eve, where you can have 5 people into your home. But on every other day, you can have 5 people outdoors, but we don't want anyone outside of the household coming into your home apart from New Year's Eve. And can I be very clear about that? It's really important to keep households separate when we've got such a high concentration of cases, active cases, and also people in isolation. And that's just to keep everybody safe. And we appreciate the frustration that many of you are experiencing, but if we ask you to do the hard yards now, we're confident that we'll be able to regain normality much sooner than anticipated, given where the cases are going and how the strategy is actually unfolding.